Thank you. And Ayana, if you could answer the question of what supports would you say that HBCUs provide that PWIs don't?
That's a great question. So one of the biggest things I would say is like generally like just the support in the community. So like at Spelman, I never had to seek out community and figuring out like my people. I think also being a graduate student is isolating within itself and like doing research, right? Like you're mostly working alone unless you're doing classes or something of that nature. And so I think like that is different. Like you have to seek those things out. And sometimes at these predominantly white institutions, there's not a lot of organizations that are geared towards us. So you have to find that, whether that's on campus or outside. And so I think that you like, I think really just having that community and those professors too that you can lean on. Like I know a lot of my professors, I'm like, I still talk to them to this day. Like I have their numbers, like we check in. But here it's like, it's not that. And so I would probably say one of the biggest things is like that community that is just automatically there and that you build on throughout your tenure at your HBCU versus here is like, you really have to be intentional about seeking that out.
Okay. Well, I think I've always been aware of my Blackness just because for the first few years of my life, I did attend an all-white schools. So there was more about like the image of how I looked different from a lot of my friends, and you know, it was just different. Like the hair was different, everything was different, and I couldn't really go to other teachers to ask them like, why don't I look similar to them? I guess going to college, that did kind of change it a bit. I mean, not really, but I've always been aware since elementary. And then supports that HBCUs provide that PWIs don't. I'd say it's the, I don't know. Because we had, in my school, all the Black people knew each other. Like, even though there weren't as much compared to the other races and ethnicities there, we all kept our own tight-knit community within each other, and we kept up to date on each other. I guess what HBCUs would provide that PWIs don't probably would be the fact that you don't need to have that safety circle, which is kind of what we created for ourselves, because there would be more people that look like you when you walk out on the street, or you walk out, you go to campus, you're not looking around like, who looks like me, who can I be friends with here? So I guess kind of that would be something that HBCUs provide.
Right. Yeah, because I know one thing that I often hear when people talk about HBCUs, they describe it as, you know, having a support system, like having like an extended family, people looking out for one another. I think, as we said earlier, at PWIs, you don't really get that same sense. You have to kind of like actively seek it out versus it just kind of coming naturally. Because I know, you know, both undergrad and grad, like I didn't really have like even my advisors and other people like that, professors, like I have like maybe one or two that I would say I connected with like really well. But like I literally had to seek out like professors in the Africana Studies department kind of thing before I kind of felt this level of connection and people like actually, you know, looking out for me in that kind of way. So I guess to better structure this question about supports, like, you know, what do you think, or like as far as what supports would you say that Black and other multicultural students need to prepare them for success socially, academically, and career-wise at PWIs? And
can I come in for a little bit just to kind of buttress that question? Sure. Okay, so guys, actually, you know, what was so awesome about what happened, these ladies, you know, like, so you can see these three young ladies that have been talking here. I mean, our interns, they came up with the idea for, you know, the Black faces and white spaces. And once we put it out there on social media, it was so bubbling. That's what you guys responded to. And we started looking into it more and understanding that at our academy. So I've already talked to a guy who has a PhD in socio-emotional learning. And we're going to work on the curriculum here in about a week or two that is going to be designed to support students as they go through their careers because of this issue of all the pressure that we feel because of we're people of color. And some of us will probably have some more natural skills or ways of working on it, and tools to deal with it, but some of us may not. And regardless, I think it is such a daunting task to be a representative and ambassador at such a young age. And it adds, and I guess how I would answer it is that it adds this extra layer of processing that you shouldn't have to do. That's where I think like my contribution to this question is that I believe in HBCU, you just go and just be in school. If you're, I watched this video once and this young lady goes, oh, when I go to Ghana, she was an African American. She goes, when I go to Ghana, I'm not a black woman in Ghana, I'm just a woman in Ghana. And that extra layer of processing is something that I find to be, that we've accepted as normal. And what I believe is that we can provide support to the Afrimerican Academy through discussion and through all other socio-emotional learning skills to prepare students and people to what you have to deal with microaggressions, code switching, having to search out, like we said, certain activities if you are in a PWI because things are not tailored towards you. But then again, how do we develop things that are towards us if we never have the practice to develop things towards us? If that makes any sense. So we want to provide this support so that we can keep that cultural continence, throughout your school year. So that's the context of this question. So I'm asking this question for everybody. Like, if you think about your life, the social pathways you need to create. Like Miss Ketanji Jackson, we all, congratulations to her for becoming the first Supreme Court justice, but her husband is white. And the reason why that probably happened, not saying that she shouldn't fall in love with people of different race, was because as a Supreme Court justice, there were probably not enough social pathways to have enough men. There were probably smart men that she could have married, but I mean, you think of all the qualities you're looking for in a man. I mean, it really turns out to be some sort of like winning the lottery, to be very successful and then find a partner that is of color as well and has your same experiences, because unless you met them in college maybe, and she met her person in college. What about the career life goals, right? How does it affect the fact that if I'm living in Africa with all my own people, if I'm from Trinidad and meeting my own people, my network is larger, I don't have to be ashamed. All those extra layers, things that we don't, how do those things affect you? And what kind of supports do you think we need as a young person?
I was going to say support to prepare successfully. I feel like something I would have liked, I can give another side to this of the support you need while you're there as well, but to prepare for it.
Oh no, that's included. Sorry.
Oh, that's included?
Yeah. It's like basically throughout your life. So maybe things like when you're older as well as when you're in college. Just you work in the city of Boston now. You went from one PWI that was a career, from an institution, to another PWI that's a career, right? So you're dealing with it. It's just PWI is not based on just college. It's based on any institution that is predominantly white. You're dealing with the same thing at a different level. Yeah.
I'd say to be in it and to thrive, you need someone that looks like you in administration that's willing to take you under their wing. So I was lucky enough to find someone like that at my college who took me under her wing and then got me one job that led to me joining the student union, then the student government, and then other stuff, and connecting me everywhere. And she's that person for a lot of people. So that's how that was at UMass Amherst. And then especially here at City of Boston, I also went to one like that as well. So I think you just need, you definitely need someone that looks like you, that's up there, who can kind of guide you through whatever they've gone through already, but also what you probably shouldn't do, what you should look towards. So someone in administration that has the power to like do whatever but looks like you, that's the type of support I feel like you need in a PWI.
That's deep. Does any other panelists want to jump on that question? Feel free.
I can jump on it, Candace. At first, I would say finding people within the institution that look like you, yes. But most recently, I've also added having a strong support system outside of that. So people who may not know me within the academic realm or within just the institution of college itself. So making sure that who I intentionally surround myself with outside of my academic pursuits are also solid and able to support me in that way. Because I'm finding now, although I have found people, I'm finding now that that may not always be the case. So making sure that whatever I'm building for myself outside of that world is also as supportive as I would want it to be in that world.
Can I add something really quick to that?
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Please.
I was just thinking, like, even with what your students need, I think like that affirmation, and I think that comes with like the community and the mentorship and things of that nature. But when you go from being the majority to the only one, like the imposter syndrome is very real, and I see that amongst my peers. But I also think about like even at like the secondary level, like that's something that you kind of start to see. And so making sure that like Black students and other students of color are affirmed in these spaces and knowing that you earned your position there, because I think that's a question that comes up, whether sometimes people will blatantly say it, but it's also sometimes alluded to in those conversations of like, if you're the only one. And so I think making sure that students know that you earned your spot and you deserve to be here just like anybody else. Because if not, I think that does impact like the ability to engage academically, because you go from this space of surviving instead of thriving. And that's where I think we need to start also conceptualizing, like, how do we get students in that space as well? So again,
yes,
we're thinking about how do we affirm them while they're navigating it and being introduced to these different settings.
I love that. Thank you.
I like that. I also like the fact that, you know, introducing, but also keeping in contact is another thing. When we move from the Black spaces to the PWIs, it's almost like, okay, there's no road backwards to bring people along or to mentor people who are still in the communities of color, right? It's like, you're gone now, you're safe. No, I was safe before.